Um, if you are watching this on YouTube or on our Being Human Church webpage, I want you to know that this discussion is about a TED Talk that we just watched on Zoom. The TED Talk title, if you want to look it up, is Three Ways to Upgrade Democracy for the 21st Century. And it's by Rashbrooke. Max Rashbrooke, titled Three Ways to Upgrade Democracy for the 21st Century. Now, he was speaking from Auckland, outside the US, and most of you maybe watching this, I don't know, will be in the United States. But his point about upgrading democracy was that a lot of people today don't think that they have a say in government at all, despite voting. They think of those elected as the government versus us, the people. And sometimes this is, I think, reinforced by the news and other media when they use terminology like our leaders or the government when they're referring to the people in Washington, D.C. or at your state level government. And they say our leaders are the government instead of our elected representatives, or our elected officials. And I think that would help because all of these people, originally came from their local communities. They were elected by local people who knew them after they ran a campaign, and they were elected at one level of government and then possibly proceeded on to another level of government, but they are just people like us. They're not some strange, being government. So they're us. And so the video that we just watched talks about how to correct some of these problems, how to deal with some of these problems of people today not feeling like they have a say in government and seeing it as us versus them. And one of the he suggested three ways. The first one was called a citizens assembly, and he said that is currently used in places like Canada and Australia, where a sample of representative citizens are collected together. He used the number 100. And they're supposed to be representative of the population. I don't know that there would be problems inherent. I don't know how they do that, select them as being representative, but they're selected and they're paid for their time to get together and discuss the issues. And he said that they are trained in how to discuss issues, in similarly to how a jury is trained to discuss the issues in a trial. So the first example, the first method that he talked about that he would like to see used to improve democracy is called citizens assembly, and that's what that was. The second one that he mentioned is called participatory budgeting, and he said that originated in Brazil, where 50,000 people participate every year, and they get together and discuss how to allocate resources, how to budget. And so once they've worked through that, they make the recommendations. That is called participatory budgeting. That's the second method that he suggested. And then the third was called online consensus forming. And he gave an example from Taiwan, where the people recommended ways to regulate Uber in Taiwan, and that a lot of those were then picked up by the Taiwanese government and accepted by Uber. So that third way is called online consensus forming. So as I was watching that video, I would love ways to upgrade our democracy, because a lot of us do feel like it's not working, especially in recent years, as well as we would like it to. But my thoughts on some of those suggestions that he made were what would keep those selected groups of people free from issues that plague efforts to select juries, for example. There's all kinds of, examples of this. Juries can be tampered with, by parties who are interested in the outcomes that they're discussing. People don't want to participate on juries sometimes because they're not paid as much as they would be at their regular job, or their careers would suffer while they're off spending their time, on a jury. They make up excuses. They don't want to participate. So I was just wondering how those groups would be free from those issues, and also what would keep them free from lobbying pressures. But anyway, besides those three ways that Max Rashbrooke discussed, I was wondering about other ways to reform democracy, particularly for the United States. And there are several things that are currently being widely discussed by various groups, among them abolishing or reforming the Electoral College, which would be very difficult. It's actually in the Constitution. The number of senators per state has been mentioned as something that is inherently not really fair, because states that are very, very sparsely populated have the same number of senators as states that are very widely populated. Ranked choice voting is one where you get to select the candidate that you really want, instead of having to vote for the lesser of two evils because you're afraid that they'll.
So Katy, can you hear me? I can't hear you at the moment. John
Oh,
and Jason, can you hear?
can you hear me, everybody? John, Jason, can you hear me? Okay.
Now I
Um,
can hear you. Something changed. Sorry.
okay. Ranked choice voting is another example that was given, and also reforming gerrymandering. That's something that everybody thinks needs to be done. There are a lot of roadblocks to the attempts to do it, but that has gotten to be an insidious evil that happens where our elected representatives are not really answerable to the majority of the population in their areas, because they've drawn the districts so that they basically get to choose their voters rather than voters choosing them. So anyway, there are a lot of things to discuss that would pertain to improving democracy for the 21st century. And this is just a sample of some that were mentioned today, but I would be interested in hearing what some of you today think about ways to do that. That's it.